having both of you here with your experience and expertise, the question is whether former President Trump will be charged with a crime. Now, Professor Tribe, let me start with you here. You see two criminal charges for sure, and maybe four, right?
Well, I've almost lost count. I mean, there is the crime of conspiring to defraud the United States.
Yep.
There is the crime of pressuring officials to violate their duty. There is the crime of corruptly impeding an official proceeding. There is the crime of assisting an insurrection. There is the crime of conspiring to overturn a fair election and to overturn the government. There is the crime of seditious conspiracy. Each of them is backed up by considerable evidence. How many federal crimes do you need before we have to really move quickly, because the clock is ticking?
Professor Tribe, though, do you believe, and this is crucial because I want to get here, I know that Ty agrees with you on part of this, but not on all. Aiding and abetting an insurrection and seditious conspiracy, these charges, do they have enough? Have they proved that to a criminal degree and to put those on the former president, Professor Tribe?
I think the odds are that the evidence is there. We've seen a good bit of it, but it's only the tip of the iceberg that we've seen. We've heard Cassidy Hutchinson. We've seen lots of the evidence. We've heard lots of the president's phone calls. We've heard evidence about what those phone calls were, trying to get Clark to turn the Department of Justice to do the president's bidding.
Yeah.
We know that there was a phone call to Raffensperger to get him to, quote, find, unquote, 11,780 votes. When you add it all up, since we don't know what we don't know, that is, we don't know all the remaining evidence, I can't say that the day after tomorrow there is enough to indict, but I can say that the trajectory is clear, that the odds that there should not be an indictment before the end of the year, an indictment that can then have a superseding indictment, are vanishingly low.
So, Ty, would you agree with that? And where do you see the charges right now that they have them? And Ty, and I'm very, very curious because I think people are very focused on the aiding and abetting an insurrection, seditious conspiracy charges. Would you go as far as Professor Tribe on that?
No, but I am with him. I think that so as a former line prosecutor and chief of a criminal division in the U.S. Attorney's Office, there are multiple approaches to indictments. Some people want to charge multiple counts. Some people want to be efficient and let the facts easily solve the elements of a crime. I think the non-reckless way to charge this on the apparent evidence is the conspiracy count, which I favor because it would bring in others culpable, and it also would leverage the ability of the Justice Department to impress upon others the importance of cooperating in some fashion to get their truthful testimony. I think the conspiracy to defraud the United States is there in many pieces. I think picking the pieces that best fall together is a chore that the Justice Department is more than capable of. I also agree on the obstruction of an official proceeding, obstruct, influence, or impede an official proceeding. I think those charges appear quite significant in terms of the evidence. I think the conversation that the professor just referred to with Raffensperger is highly probative. I think the fake elector efforts, particularly in Arizona and in Georgia, are highly problematic. Yeah. I think the pressure on Pence is highly problematic, and the entire back and forth between Jeffrey Clark and the request that Trump made of acting Attorney General Rosen and his deputy.
So Will, the question is, of course, both of you laying this out, and I just want to emphasize to everybody in the Venn diagram of how much you agree on, right? And I think that's significant if people, perceive, lawyers could have varying different views on this. Professor Tribe, though, it's Merrick Garland who's going to make the decision, the Attorney General, on whether to do this. And you've known him for many years. He understands what a crucial decision this is, right? It's a legal decision. It's also a decision that will impact the whole country. Will he do it, Professor Tribe?
Well, before I try to guess whether he will do it, I want to say that it's very notable that Ty Cobb and I agree on so much, because after all, he was Trump's defense lawyer. It's also notable that we've agreed that there are serious crimes, even without the fact that Donald Trump sat there while the mob that he knew to be armed was aimed at the Capitol, egged it on by calling his vice president a coward. Now, as to what Merrick Garland will do, although I've known him for 50 years, I know him to be a serious, thoughtful person. I don't pretend to read his mind, but I would be amazed if he was deliberately misleading the nation when he answered that interview the other day by saying that he would follow the evidence where it led. He would not allow politics to make a difference. He would not allow the fact that we're in a political season to make a difference.
Right.
All of that means that he's basically telling the American people that if the evidence shows that Trump is almost certainly guilty, he will go after him. That is what the evidence shows. And I don't think he was being cute. I don't think he was winking and nodding the way Donald Trump might have been doing when he got people to do his bidding.
And yet, Ty, the stakes are so incredibly high that if he were to go ahead with a charge, he needs to know he can win. And this is where Trump's defense comes in. Will Trump's defense that he believed the election was stolen, which is what he keeps saying, sort of, well, you can't blame me because I believed it. I thought it was true. Will that defense work, Ty?
I don't believe so. I think the evidence, assuming the evidence which has been presented, of course, without cross-examination or challenge, but assuming that the evidence is as presented, there's considerable evidence out there that his own legal advisors, including Eastman on January 4th, acknowledged that it was they were acting on a frivolous legal theory. I think that's very damaging to somebody who wants to argue willful blindness. I also think that while Trump may argue that defense, I think he's more likely to use the trial in an effort to, deal with his themes. That he's all powerful. He got cheated, and he's the only one standing up for the country. If I could make one point, though, Aaron, in response to something the professor said, which I think is significant, is the fact that the professor pointed to with the Pence tweet during the almost 3 hours of Trump's inactivity fits very, very perfectly into what I think should be done. I think Congress has a lane here. I don't think that lane is telling Merrick Garland what to do or pretending that they're leading him anywhere. Merrick's case has been moving along at a pace, just because they don't have a press release every day and they have grand jury restraints and lawful restraints on what they're able to share, doesn't mean they haven't been long at it. And obviously they've prosecuted people who actually went into the Capitol en masse. But the Pence tweet, coupled with the 3 hours of inaction, in my view, easily fits into the definition of giving aid and comfort to the insurrectionists. And that is a standard under Article 3 of the 14th Amendment, which Congress has at its disposal. And I don't, for the life of me, understand why, instead of telling the Justice Department what to do, that they aren't acting on that alone. Because if they have a sense of the Congress, the penalty of finding Trump guilty of giving aid and comfort to an insurrectionist is disqualification from office forever.
And that, of course, would obviously be very significant, as he has made it clear, at least as of now, that he intends to run again. Professor Tribe, Ty Cobb, thank you both very much for such a thoughtful conversation.